Dear participants to the conference The Future of Education, I wish to express my gratitude for having the possibility to present in a synchronous modality this contribution that describes an experience developed in April 2022 in the framework of international exchanges for teenage students promoted by high schools in Bologna.
The study case here presented aims at demonstrating that the close collaboration between schools, local research institutes, and cultural associations is a precious opportunity from all sides. Specifically, in this case, it gave participating schools the possibility to be supported by strategies and methodologies developed in the framework of two European projects, RM at Schools and NG. International school exchanges enable students to have new experiences and spend time with fellow foreign peers with whom they can share knowledge and approach different cultures. They are based on the principles of intercultural tolerance and mutual enrichment, providing the psychological openness necessary to interact with other cultures without losing one's own national or ethnic identity. In the last decades, short-time school exchanges have become an asset for all kinds of secondary high schools. They are affordable by most students, and the experience is useful also for teachers or pre-service teachers who can broaden their perspective of teaching roles and methodologies through the comparison with foreign colleagues. The Liceo Copernico of Bologna has a long tradition of international short-time school exchanges. In addition, it collaborates with the National Research Council of Italy for the development of learning paths for students on sustainable innovation and circular economy. In 2022, in the framework of two intercultural exchanges with the St. Dimna College of Giel in Belgium and the Karoli Mihaly School from Budapest in Hungary, researchers from the local institutes of CNR decided to transform the period of these traditional exchanges into a European week. This was made to involve students in learning activities focused on the European challenges linked to the sustainable use of natural resources from Earth, in particular on critical raw materials essential for the energy transition, and some of the key concepts of circular economy as an alternative for the current linear economy. Indeed, with the future global resource use of some raw materials projected to double by 2030, addressing raw materials through the entire value chain becomes a priority, as well as transferring these ideas to youngsters. This contribution describes in detail the activities co-created with the schools and supported by CNR researchers during the European Week at Liceo Copernico in April 2022, which involved more than 50 students and teachers from 3 countries, Belgium, Hungary, and Italy. The philosophy at the base of the offered activities was to give foreign students the chance to interact, learn, and collaborate with their host peers on socio-cultural and internationally shared research topics. In this way, the experience of the intercultural exchange became an important moment of growth, acceptance, and awareness of similarities and differences between countries. The steps of the learning pathway developed during the European Week tie in with various pedagogical practices as follows. For the didactic learning, students are introduced to relevant content knowledge in the form of a didactic lesson and the attempt to involve students in exploring their personal experiences and discussing the topic. For the active learning, students then engage in an activity to support or extend their learning and their inquiry skills. And for the experiential learning, after the activity, students visit a place that has relevance to the lesson and learn how the topic addressed works in the real world. Moreover, this offers the opportunity to approach the raw matter issues from a different point of view, for example, geology versus material sciences. At the beginning of the European Week, students attended a seminar entitled Let's Shed Some Light from Edison's Lamp to OLEDs, where they could learn about the importance of some critical raw materials and the necessity to recycle them by starting from the history of light bulbs and their evolution through time. The intention of the seminar was to make students approach the issues relative to raw materials exploitation and relative challenges in a simple way, using an object they all know well and deal with in their daily life. At the end of the seminar, students completed an interactive quiz to strengthen some concepts and to determine in a fun way the learning achievements. In order to support learning methods based in more horizontal interactions and problem solving, students were then asked to fulfill a practical teamwork activity, the so-called canvas, that engaged them in a visionary exercise in which they had to imagine their brightest future. Students were then divided in heterogeneous groups to familiarize with their foreign peers and given the following premise. In 2020, the world is busy completing the process of energy transition to green and renewable resources, or the world is close to zero waste objective. They had then to collectively decide what was the idea that led to success or how the problem was solved, and then complete a poster where they described the idea or solution with words and graphically, how it was announced by media, and what different members of society think about it. Each group took inspiration from provided brochures on circular economy concepts and strategies and pathways for the sustainable energy transition. At the end of the allocated 45 minutes to complete the canvas, each group had a few minutes to present it to the others. In this way, students coped with the difficulties that arise when concise but correct messages have to be conveyed to the public. On the second day of CNR at the European Week, researchers and collaborators engaged students in a game of Liceo. It's Your Business, a strategy business board game developed by Vito, the Wuppertal Institute, and CNR. This serious game aims at increasing awareness and knowledge about circular economy strategies and circular business models through the added pedagogical value of fun and competition. Students had to act as CEOs of companies producing electronic goods such as microchips, smartphones, and e-bikes, and ensure that the companies were the most eco-friendly and successful. During the game, students made decisions on which resource management, production processes, and revenue models to apply, and by combining different investments, they tried to improve the performance and profitability of their company, sometimes facing unforeseen events. By playing, students learned about the different impacts of linear and circular business strategies on the performance of a company. They also experienced that a strong and healthy company has to be resilient against external events such as policy measures, market disruptions, and availability of resources. In a fun way, EcoCEO taught exchange students about the relevance and the opportunities of circular strategies such as recycling, take-back systems, reuse and repair activities, and product service systems. On the third day, students participated to a guided field trip to the site of the biggest sulfur mine in Europe, shut down in the 60s and now turned into a mineralogical and ethnological museum. In collaboration with researchers from CNR, the volunteers of the local NGO managing the museum offered a 2-hour visit that included an overview of the geological background of the area, the description of economic and social aspects linked to the presence of the mine in the territory of Perticara, and a dive into the life and work of miners through the visit of reconstructed mine tunnels. During the tour, students learned the history of the mine and encountered the earth science professions that were involved with the identification of metal veins, their exploitation, and the daily maintenance of the mine. At the end of the visit, they filled a feedback questionnaire relative to this experience. As a measure of impact on students, learning achievements were tested during day one with an interactive Kahoot quiz linked to the seminar on the history of light bulbs and related critical raw materials issues. 53 participants answered the 7 quiz questions with an average percentage of total correct answers of about 55. Feedback from students at the end of the field trip evidenced that the proposed activity during day 3 actually filled a knowledge gap on critical raw materials issues, although, as predictable, they were not sufficient to increase the interest of students in geosciences and related professions. In conclusion, this experience has shown us the collaboration with local institutes from CNR was particularly meaningful for schools and might be encouraged in future. The interplay between the different sides of the knowledge triangle promoted the awareness increase amongst youngsters on the necessity of a mindset change to go on towards a more sustainable society. Thank you for your attention.